The bills hit the floor between them. 1, 2, 3 wrinkled dollars, and Marcus Hale's voice carried across the ballroom like a dare. $3, right now. That's what you're worth, sweetheart. His colleagues burst out laughing, phones already recording, waiting for her to break. The woman in the server uniform didn't pick up the money, didn't flinch, didn't apologize. She just reached behind her back, untied her apron, and let it drop. Underneath, navy dress blues, commander insignia, 30 years of service ribbons covering her chest like armor. The laughter died instantly, and Kira Vance's voice, when it finally came, was quieter than the silence. Gentlemen, you just made the most expensive mistake of your lives. Now hit subscribe, drop a like, and comment your city below, because what happened next didn't just stun that room. It broke an entire system. The Sterling Hotel ballroom smelled like old money and new wine. Commander Kira Vance had been holding a champagne tray for 40 minutes, and not one person had looked her in the eye. That was fine. She wasn't there to be seen. She moved between tables with practiced invisibility, the kind you learn when you've spent half your life blending into places you weren't supposed to survive. Black slacks, white button-down, hair pulled back tight. She looked exactly like what they expected. Help. Marcus Hale sat at table 7 with his back to the stage, legs stretched out like he owned the square footage beneath them. Brett Cullen leaned back in his chair, scrolling through his phone with the bored entitlement of someone who'd never been told no. Drew Finnegan tapped his fingers on the table, eyes tracking every woman in the room under 30. Kira approached with water refills. Hale didn't move his legs. "Excuse me, sir." He glanced up like she'd interrupted something important. "What?" "Just refilling your water." Hale looked her up and down, slow and deliberate. "How old are you?" Kira's face didn't change. "Old enough to know better?" Cullen snorted. "Damn, she's got a mouth on her." Finnegan grinned. "Mouths are useful." Kira set the pitcher down, stepped back. "Will there be anything else?" Hale leaned forward, elbows on the table. "Yeah. Tell me something. What's a woman your age doing serving drinks at a gala? Retirement didn't work out?" "Something like that." "Husband leave you?" "Never had one." Cullen laughed. "That explains it." Kira reached for an empty glass. Hale's hand shot out, not grabbing, just blocking. "I'm talking to you." "I'm working, sir." "So am I. I work 80-hour weeks. Built a company from nothing. You know what I make in a year?" "I couldn't guess." "Try." Kira met his eyes. "More than you're worth." The table went silent. Then Hale laughed, loud and sharp. "Oh, she's got fire. I like that." He looked at Cullen. "You think she's got fire?" "I think she's got bills." Finnegan leaned in. "I think she's got about 10 years left before nobody hires her at all." Kira picked up the empty glasses, stacked them carefully. "Gentlemen, enjoy your evening." She turned to leave. Hale's voice followed her. "Hold on." She stopped, didn't turn around. "I want to do something nice for you." "That's not necessary." "No, really. I believe in charity." Hale reached into his wallet, pulled out 3 $1 bills and held them up for the table to see. $3, right now. That's generous, right? Cullen was already pulling out his phone. This is going to be good. Hale stood up, walked over to Kira, and dropped the bills onto her tray one at a time. 1, 2, 3. There you go. Annual worth, paid in full. The bills landed wrinkled and soft, like they'd been in his pocket for weeks. Kira looked down at them. She didn't pick them up. She didn't say thank you. Hale tilted his head. What, no gratitude? For $3? For the gesture. The gesture, Kira repeated, voice flat. Yeah, some people know how to be grateful. Hale looked around the table, grinning. But I guess that's the service industry, always wanting more. Finnegan stood up, moved closer. Not threatening, just closing space. You know what your problem is? You think you're too good for this. Kira's eyes shifted to him. I don't think anything. I'm just trying to work. Then work, Cullen said, phone still up, recording. Thank the man and move on. Kira's jaw flexed. Just once. She looked at the 3 bills, then back at Hale. You want me to thank you? It's polite. For $3. For the acknowledgement that you exist. The room around them kept moving. Conversations, laughter, clinking glasses. Nobody was paying attention. Nobody ever did. Kira set the tray down on the edge of the table. Slowly, deliberately. The 3 bills sat there between them like evidence. Sir, I need you to step back. Hale's grin widened. Or what? Or I'll make you. Cullen burst out laughing. Oh my God! Brett, are you getting this? Every second. Finnegan stepped even closer, voice dropping. You really want to make a scene? Because we've got 200 witnesses in this room, and every single one of them sees exactly what you are. And what's that? Desperate. Kira's hands stayed loose at her sides. Her posture didn't change, but something in her breathing shifted. Slower, deeper, the kind of calm that comes right before violence. Hale noticed. He didn't understand it, but he noticed. Look, he said, voice softening into false concern. I'm trying to help you out here. You're clearly struggling. $3 isn't much, but it's something. Just say thank you, take the money, and we'll forget this happened. I'm not struggling. Sure you are. Why else would you be here? Kira picked up one of the dollar bills, held it up to the light. You think this buys you something? I think it buys you dinner. No. Kira's voice went cold. You think it buys you permission. Hale's smile faltered. Permission for what? To treat me like I'm less than human. Cullen lowered his phone slightly. Jesus, lady, it's a joke. Jokes are funny. Finnegan moved to her left, completing the triangle. You know what's funny? Watching someone your age act like they've got options. Kira turned to face him. Options? Yeah, like you can just walk away from a paying gig because your feelings got hurt. My feelings aren't hurt. Then what's the problem? Kira looked at all 3 of them, one by one. Then she picked up the other 2 bills, held all 3 in her hand, and spoke clearly enough for anyone nearby to hear. The problem is that you think $3 gives you the right to humiliate me. And the bigger problem is that you're used to getting away with it. Hale's face darkened. Okay, that's enough. You need to leave. I will, right after I finish my job. Your job is to serve drinks and shut up. Kira smiled. It wasn't warm. Is that what you tell all the women you work with? Silence. Just for a beat. Then Hale stepped forward, close enough that she could smell the bourbon on his breath. You want to know what I tell them? I tell them that the world doesn't owe them anything. That if they want respect, they earn it. And I tell them that entitled attitudes like yours are why nobody takes women seriously in this industry. Which industry is that? Any industry that matters. Kira's smile didn't move. And you matter. Damn right I do. Your company, Hale Defense Solutions. $62 million in contracts last year. Mostly SOCOM support. Some DevGru logistics. Little bit of MARSOC training coordination. Hale blinked. How do you... You've got 3 active bids right now. One for counterinsurgency consulting, one for tactical systems integration, one for overseas security personnel. Cullen's phone came back up. "Who the hell are you?" Kira ignored him. She kept her eyes on Hale. "You want to know why I'm here? I'm here because I was invited by the Deputy Secretary of Defense to speak about veteran advocacy and defense contractor accountability." The air changed. Hale's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Finnegan stepped back. "Wait, you're? But before I go up there and talk about systemic disrespect and institutional failures," Kira continued, voice steady, "I thought I'd see what it's like down here, where the real culture lives." From the stage, a voice boomed through the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention." Heads turned. The gala director stood at the podium, smiling wide. "We have a very special guest tonight. A woman who has served this country for 30 years, who led the operation that saved 40 hostages in Yemen, who built our counter-trafficking task force from the ground up, who holds 3 Navy Crosses and more classified commendations than I'm allowed to mention." Kira reached behind her back and untied her apron, let it fall. Underneath, her uniform. Navy dress blues, commander insignia, ribbons covering her chest like armor. The director's voice rose. "Please welcome the Director of Special Warfare Oversight, Commander Kira Vance." Applause erupted. 200 people stood. Phones came out, but not to mock, to record the moment. Kira looked at Hale. His face had gone white. She picked up the $3 bills, held them up where the closest tables could see. "These gentlemen just offered me $3. Not as a tip, as an assessment of my worth." The applause stopped. You could hear breathing. Cullen tried to shove his phone into his pocket. Too late. 20 people had seen him recording. Finnegan backed up, hands raised. "Ma'am, we didn't know." "You knew I was a person," Kira said. "That should have been enough." Hale found his voice. Barely. "Commander, this is a misunderstanding." "Is it?" Kira stepped closer. "Because 3 minutes ago, you told me my job was to serve drinks and shut up. You told me I had no options. You told me that entitled attitudes like mine are why nobody takes women seriously." "I didn't mean..." "You meant every word." Kira's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. "You meant it because you've said it before. To other women. In other rooms. And nobody stopped you." Someone from a nearby table stood up. A young woman in a Marine Corps dress uniform, barely 25, holding her phone with shaking hands. "Ma'am," she said, voice cracking, "I recorded everything. From the beginning. The proposition. All of it." Kira looked at her. "What's your name, Marine?" "Corporal Danielle Ortiz, ma'am." "You did good, Corporal." Ortiz's eyes filled. "They do this all the time. At every event. And nobody ever..." Her voice broke. Kira nodded once. "Not anymore." She turned back to Hale, who was now looking around the room like he might find an exit that didn't involve consequences. "Here's what's going to happen," Kira said. "These $3 are going to the Wounded Warrior Project, and you're going to match it. Appropriately." "Of course," Hale stammered. "Absolutely. Whatever you..." $50,000. Each of you." Cullen's head snapped up. "What?" "You heard me. 50,000. Each. By Monday." Finnegan's voice came out strangled. "That's a bargain," Kira finished, "compared to what this is going to cost you otherwise." Hale's lawyer instincts kicked in. "You can't prove intent. This is your word against ours." Kira didn't blink. "Corporal Ortiz, how many witnesses do you count?" Ortiz scanned the room. At least 40 people filming right now, ma'am. Probably more. And you recording? Already uploaded to cloud storage. Kira looked back at Hale. Still want to debate evidence? His jaw worked. No sound came out. From the back of the room, another voice. Older, male, calm. Commander Vance, do you need security? Kira glanced over. A senator she recognized from oversight hearings. No, sir. These gentlemen were just leaving. But Hale wasn't done. Desperation made him stupid. You think you can ruin us? Do you know how many contracts we have? How many people depend on us? I know exactly how many, Kira said, because I approve every single one. The room went silent again. Different this time. Heavier. Cullen's voice came out weak. You're bluffing. Kira reached into her pocket, pulled out her phone, and pulled up an email. Turned the screen so they could see. Subject: Q2. Contract renewals, pending review. CC: SOCOM acquisition, NAVC oversight, Joint Contracting Command. Every contract you have with Naval Special Warfare? Kira said. Every SEAL team support package? Every DevGru logistics coordination? All of it crosses my desk. And right now, I'm thinking maybe we need to review our standards for contractor conduct. Hale's knees actually buckled. He caught himself on the chair. Finnegan tried one last play. This is retaliation. We'll file a complaint. With who? Kira's voice stayed level. The Inspector General? Perfect. Let's talk about your company's conduct at the last 4 official events. Let's talk about the harassment complaints that got buried. Let's talk about the group chat where you rate women by their availability. Should I keep going? Finnegan's mouth snapped shut. Kira held up the $3 again. These bills are going in a frame, with your names on a plaque underneath. And every time someone asks me about contractor accountability, I'm going to tell them this story, word for word. She stepped past them, headed toward the stage. The room parted like water. Halfway there, she stopped, turned back. One more thing. Corporal Ortiz? Yes, ma'am. After this event, I want to see that recording, and I want the names of every other woman these men have harassed. Because we're not doing containment. We're doing accountability. Ortiz straightened. Yes, ma'am. Kira walked to the stage. Every step was measured, controlled, but her hands were shaking. Not from fear, from 30 years of swallowing moments like this. From every time someone assumed she was less because she was older, because she was a woman, because she didn't fit their definition of power. She reached the podium. The director handed her the microphone. Kira looked out at 200 faces, some sympathetic, some shocked, some uncomfortable because they'd laughed at similar jokes and never thought about the cost. She held up the $3. I wasn't going to start my speech this way, she said, but plans change. Nervous laughter rippled through the room. These $3 represent something I've seen my entire career. The belief that money buys permission, that age diminishes value, that a woman serving drinks must be less than a man signing checks. She paused, let it breathe. But here's what those $3 actually bought. They bought evidence. They bought witnesses. They bought accountability. Because the thing about disrespect is that it only works in silence. And I'm done being silent. The applause started slow, then built, then became something that sounded like relief. Kira looked directly at table 7. Hale was still standing there, frozen. Cullen had his head in his hands. Finnegan was staring at the floor. Gentlemen, Kira said into the microphone, voice carrying across the ballroom. Thank you for the $3, and thank you for reminding me why this work matters. She smiled. Not cruel, just certain. Enjoy the rest of your evening, what's left of it. Kira's speech lasted 12 minutes. She didn't raise her voice once. Didn't need to. Every word landed like a hammer on glass, and by the time she finished, 3 executives were trying to disappear into furniture that couldn't hide them. Hale moved first. He grabbed his jacket, muttered something to Cullen about getting ahead of this, and started toward the exit. He made it 6 steps before a hand landed on his shoulder. "Mr. Hale." The voice belonged to Gerard Nichols, Hale Defense Solutions' own VP of Operations, the man who'd flown in from Atlanta for this event. "We need to talk." "Not now, Gerard." "Yes, now." Nichols wasn't asking. His face had gone the color of old concrete. "Conference room. All 3 of you. Move." Cullen stood, legs unsteady. "This is being blown out of proportion." "Shut up, Brett." Nichols pointed toward the hallway. "Walk." Finnegan tried to slip past them. A woman stepped into his path. Late 50s, sharp suit, FBI credentials clipped to her belt. "Drew Finnegan?" He froze. "Who's asking?" "Special Agent Carla Reeves. I'd like a word about your company's conduct at federally funded events." "I don't have to talk to you." "No, you don't. But the Inspector General does, and they're very interested in the video that just got forwarded to their office." Reeves smiled. It wasn't friendly. 17 minutes ago." Finnegan's face drained. "What video?" "The one where you proposition a Navy commander and film it for entertainment. You want to lawyer up now? Or you want to keep pretending this goes away?" Behind them, Kira stepped down from the stage. The applause had stopped, but the energy in the room hadn't settled. It churned like water before a storm. Corporal Ortiz moved through the crowd, phone in hand, and intercepted Kira near the bar. "Ma'am, I need to show you something." Kira stopped. "What is it?" Ortiz pulled up her photo gallery, swiped to a screenshot. Group chat, 12 members, messages going back months. Hale. "Who's the brunette at table 4? That she's desperate enough." Cullen. "Too old. Try the blonde serving drinks. She looks broke." Finnegan. $5 says she takes the bait. Make it 10 and film it." Kira read 3 more messages, her jaw set. "When did you get this?" "Tonight. One of them accidentally airdropped it to my phone when he was trying to send it to someone else." Ortiz's voice shook. "There are 43 conversations like this. Different events, different women. Same pattern." "Do you have names for the other members?" 6 of them, all contractors. 2 of them are here tonight." Kira looked past Ortiz toward the hallway, where Nichols was herding Hale, Cullen, and Finnegan into a private room. "Forward everything to me, then forward it to Agent Reeves, then send it to the IG's office with your statement attached." "They'll retaliate." "Let them try." Kira's voice went cold. "Because by tomorrow morning, this stops being about 3 men at a gala. It becomes about a system that protected them." Ortiz nodded, fingers already moving across her screen. "Yes, ma'am." Kira turned and nearly walked into Senator Patricia Aldridge, Armed Services Committee. 20 years in office, 0 tolerance for institutional bullshit. "Commander Vance, you have a minute?" "Of course, Senator." Aldridge gestured toward a quieter corner. They moved together, 2 women who'd spent careers navigating rooms that didn't want them there. "That was quite a speech," Aldridge said. "It wasn't planned." "Best ones never are." Aldridge pulled out her own phone, showed Kira a message thread. "My chief of staff just sent me this. Hale Defense Solutions has 3 active contracts under Armed Services oversight. 2 of them are up for renewal next month." Kira's eyes scanned the screen. "I didn't know Armed Services had jurisdiction." "We don't, SOCOM does. But I can ask questions. Loud ones. in public hearings. Aldridge's smile was sharp. Would that help? It would complicate their lives significantly. Good, because I'm tired of watching men like that coast on competence they don't have, while women like you carry the weight. Aldridge pocketed her phone. Expect a call from my office Monday. We're going to talk about contractor accountability standards. She walked away before Kira could respond. Across the room, another woman approached. Late 40s, civilian clothes, haunted eyes. She stopped a few feet from Kira, wringing her hands. Commander? Kira turned. Yes? I'm sorry to bother you. The woman's voice cracked. I used to work for Hale Defense. In HR. 3 years ago, I filed a complaint about Marcus Hale, about the way he talked to female employees, about the photos he shared in company chats. What happened to the complaint? It disappeared. My supervisor told me I misunderstood the culture, that defense contracting wasn't for people who couldn't take a joke. She wiped her eyes. I left 6 months later, but I kept copies of everything. Kira's pulse quickened. Do you still have them? Every email, every text, every photo. The woman pulled a flash drive from her purse. I've been carrying this for 3 years, waiting for someone to care enough to look. Kira took it carefully, like it might detonate. What's your name? Linda Chen. Ms. Chen, I need you to stay here. I'm going to introduce you to an FBI agent, and you're going to tell her everything you just told me. Can you do that? Linda nodded, tears streaming. Will it matter? It's going to end them. Kira flagged down Agent Reeves, made the introduction, and watched Linda's hands shake as she started talking. The weight of 3 years of silence pouring out in a hallway at a veterans gala. Behind them, raised voices erupted from the conference room. Hale's voice carried through the door. You're overreacting. It was a misunderstanding. Nichols. A misunderstanding that's been recorded by 40 witnesses and uploaded to federal servers? Cullen. We can spin this. Apologize, make a donation, move on. Nichols. Move on? Brett, the Director of Special Warfare Oversight just publicly called you out for harassment. Every contract we have is now under review. The board is getting calls. Our stock is going to tank Monday morning. Finnegan. So fire us. Pay us out, make it go away. Nichols. Fire you? I'm going to bury you. Because if this company goes down, I'm making damn sure everyone knows whose fault it was. The door opened. Nichols walked out, face red, phone pressed to his ear. He saw Kira, stopped mid-step, and lowered the phone. Commander Vance, I need to apologize on behalf of— Don't, Kira's voice cut clean. I don't want apologies from people who weren't in the room when it happened. Our company does not condone. Your company employed them, promoted them, gave them access to federal events where they could repeat this behavior. Kira stepped closer. So don't tell me what you don't condone. Tell me what you're going to do about it. Nichols swallowed. What do you want? Full internal investigation, third-party oversight, every complaint filed in the last 5 years reopened, and their terminations, effective immediately. We need to follow process. You needed to follow process 3 years ago when Linda Chen filed her complaint. You need to follow it now when Corporal Ortiz hands you evidence of systematic harassment. But you won't, because process protects the wrong people. Kira's voice stayed level. So here's what's actually going to happen. You're going to terminate them tonight. You're going to release a statement tomorrow acknowledging institutional failures, and you're going to cooperate fully with every federal investigation that follows. And if I don't? Then I recommend every contract you have, and I make sure every program manager in SOCOM knows exactly why. Nichols stared at her. The calculation played across his face. Loyalty to his colleagues versus survival of the company. It wasn't even close. They'll be terminated within the hour. Good. Nichols walked away, phone back to his ear, barking orders to someone about crisis management and legal representation. Kira turned and found Corporal Ortiz standing nearby, eyes wide. "Ma'am, did you just—" "Yes." "But won't they—" "Probably." Kira exhaled slowly. "But that's tomorrow's problem. Tonight, we finish this." She walked back into the ballroom. The event had fractured into clusters of conversation. Some people were leaving early, uncomfortable with the tension. Others stayed, phones out, documenting everything. At table 12, 4 women in military uniforms sat together, whispering. One of them looked up as Kira passed, stood abruptly. "Ma'am?" Kira stopped. The woman was young, maybe 27, Air Force lieutenant bars on her shoulders. "I need to tell you something. About Captain Finnegan. From when he consulted on our training program last year." Kira's chest tightened. "Go ahead." "He cornered me in a supply closet. Said if I wanted better evaluations, I should be nicer to him. He didn't touch me, but the way he said it—" Her voice broke. "I reported it to my commander. He told me not to make waves." Another woman stood, Navy ensign, fresh-faced, trembling. "He did the same thing to me, at a contracting conference in San Diego." Then another. Then another. 4 women, 4 separate incidents. Same man, same pattern. Kira looked at them, these young officers who'd done everything right and gotten nothing but silence in return. "I need all of you to write down what happened. Dates, locations, witnesses, everything you remember. Then I need you to submit formal complaints through your chain of command, and I need you to copy me on every single one." The Air Force lieutenant hesitated. "Ma'am, with respect, nothing's going to happen. It never does." "It does now." Kira pulled out her phone, typed quickly, and showed them the screen. Email to the Inspector General, the Secretary of Defense, and the Senate Armed Services Committee. Subject line: Systematic contractor misconduct. Requires immediate investigation. She hit send. "You just—" The ensign couldn't finish the sentence. "I just made this official, which means they can't bury it, they can't ignore it, and they can't retaliate without making it worse." Kira looked at each of them. "But I need you to be brave, because this is going to get ugly before it gets better." The Air Force lieutenant straightened her shoulders. "We've been brave our whole careers, ma'am. We just needed someone to witness it." Kira nodded. "Then let's make sure everyone does." She moved through the ballroom, collecting stories like evidence. A civilian analyst who'd been cornered at a Christmas party. A contractor's assistant who'd quit rather than endure another business trip with Cullen. A retired colonel who'd watched Hale demean his staff for years and never said a word. Each story added weight. Each voice made the pattern undeniable. By the time Kira circled back to the conference room, Hale was standing in the hallway, face blotchy, hands shaking. He saw her, and something broke. "You're going to regret this." Kira stopped walking. "Am I?" "I've got lawyers. I've got connections. I'll sue you for defamation, for slander, for destroying my reputation." "Your reputation destroyed itself the moment you threw $3 at a woman and called it generosity." "It was a joke." "No, Marcus. It was a test. To see if I'd break, if I'd apologize, if I'd disappear quietly like all the others." Kira stepped closer. "But I don't break, and I don't disappear, and neither do they." She gestured toward the ballroom, where women were still gathering, still talking, still refusing to be silent. Hale's voice turned desperate. "What do you want from me?" "Nothing. You've got nothing left I'd want." "I'll admit I was wrong. I'll apologize publicly. You'll do exactly what you're told by your lawyers and nothing else. Because every word out of your mouth now is evidence." Kira's voice stayed calm. "But here's what's going to happen anyway. Your company will fire you. Your contracts will be terminated. Your reputation will follow you into every job interview for the rest of your life. And every time someone Googles your name, they'll find tonight." Hale's legs gave out. He caught himself against the wall. "This is insane. Over $3? "No, Marcus. Over 30 years of $3. Over every woman you've humiliated. Over every joke you thought was harmless. Over every time you mistook silence for permission." Kira turned to leave, then stopped. "The $3 were just the receipt." She walked away. Behind her, Hale slumped to the floor, head in his hands, finally understanding that some things can't be fixed with money or apologies or time. Some things just end. And this was one of them. Kira's phone started ringing at 6:47 the next morning. She'd gotten 3 hours of sleep. It wasn't enough. "Commander Vance?" Her voice sounded more awake than she felt. "Kira, it's Admiral Breck." Pause. "We need to talk about last night." She sat up in bed, already calculating. "Yes, sir." "You understand the position this puts the Navy in?" "I understand the position those men put themselves in." "That's not what I ask." Breck's tone shifted, not angry, careful. 3 defense contractors are being terminated. Their company's stock dropped 8% in pre-market trading. The Senate Armed Services Committee is calling for hearings, and it all traces back to you. It traces back to $3 and a pattern of harassment that's been documented for years. I'm not disputing that. I'm asking if you understood the magnitude before you made it public. Kira stood, walked to the window, dawn breaking over Arlington. "Sir, with respect, I didn't make it public. They did. They just didn't expect anyone to care." Silence on the line. Then Breck exhaled. "How many women have contacted you since last night?" 47, that I know of. Agent Reeves says her office has received 63 formal complaints." Jesus Christ. "That's just from last night. The IG's office expects more Monday when people realize they can report safely." Breck's voice dropped. "Kira, I'm going to ask you something off the record. Are you prepared for what comes next?" "What comes next, sir?" "Retaliation. Not from them, from the system. Because you just exposed a problem that goes deeper than 3 drunk assholes at a gala. You exposed the fact that we've been enabling it." Kira's jaw tightened. "Then maybe we should stop enabling it." "I agree, but agreeing doesn't protect you from blowback. People are going to say you overreacted, that you weaponized your position, that this is about ego, not accountability." "Let them say it." "Kira." "Sir, I spent 30 years making myself small enough to fit into rooms that didn't want me. I smiled through insults. I ignored propositions. I pretended not to hear the jokes about my age, my body, my worth. And I watched other women do the same thing, because that's what survival looked like." She stopped, steadied her breath. "Last night, I decided survival wasn't enough anymore." Long pause. Then Breck said quietly, "I'm with you. But you need to know, you're about to become very visible, and not everyone's going to like what they see." "I'm already visible, Admiral. I just stopped apologizing for it." Good. Because you're going to need that. He hung up. Kira set the phone down. Her hands were shaking. Not from fear, from adrenaline that had nowhere to go. By 9 a.m., her email inbox had exploded. 214 messages. Half were supportive, half were furious. One from a retired colonel. Finally, someone said it. One from a contractor she didn't recognize. You just destroyed 3 careers over a joke. Hope you're proud. One from Corporal Ortiz. Ma'am, my commander wants to speak with me. Should I be worried? Kira replied immediately. Do not speak with anyone without Jag present. Call me if there's pressure. Her phone rang again. Unknown number. Commander Vance? This is Marcus Hale. His voice sounded hollow. I need 5 minutes. We have nothing to discuss. Please, just 5 minutes. No lawyers, no recording. Just you and me. Kira considered hanging up. Didn't. Talk. I'm sorry. The words came out broken. For what I said. For what I did. For all of it. You're sorry you got caught. No. I'm sorry I thought it was okay. Pause. My daughter called me this morning. She's 24, works in finance. She asked me if I've ever done to her what I did to you. His voice cracked. I couldn't answer her. Because I don't know. I don't know how many times I've said something, done something, and thought it was harmless. Kira said nothing. She won't talk to me now, Hale continued. My wife moved into the guest room. The board fired me at midnight. My lawyers say I'm unemployable, and I deserve all of it. But I need you to know I didn't understand. I genuinely didn't understand what I was doing. That's not my responsibility to fix. I know. But maybe it's my responsibility to try. He exhaled shakily. There's something else. Something you need to know. What? Brett Cullen. He kept files. On women. Photos, videos, recordings from events. Some of them aren't consensual. He stored everything on a private server. Kira's blood went cold. How do you know this? Because he showed me. 2 years ago. Thought it was funny. I told him to delete it, but I don't think he did. Why are you telling me now? Because you're right. This is bigger than $3. And if I'm going down, I'm not protecting him anymore. Hale's voice hardened. The server address is in an email I'm forwarding to Agent Reeves. I don't know what's on it. But whatever it is, he shouldn't get away with it. The line went dead. Kira immediately called Reeves. I just got Hale's email, Reeves said before Kira could speak. We're getting a warrant now. If what he says is true, it's true. Kira's stomach turned. He wouldn't give that up unless it was damning. Commander, I need you to prepare yourself. This is going to get worse before it gets better. How much worse? The server's been active for 4 years. We're talking potentially hundreds of victims. Kira closed her eyes. Jesus. Yeah, Reeves paused. For what it's worth, you did the right thing. If you hadn't spoken up last night, we never would have found this. That doesn't make it easier. No, but it makes it necessary. The call ended. Kira sat in silence, trying to process the magnitude. 3 men, 4 years, hundreds of women. All of it hidden behind jokes and drinks and professional courtesy. Her phone buzzed. Text from Senator Aldridge. Hearing scheduled for Thursday. You're testifying. Non-negotiable. Another text. This one from Gerard Nichols. Legal team wants to depose you. They're claiming you acted outside protocol. And another. Anonymous number. You ruined good men over nothing. Hope you can live with yourself. Kira deleted that one, kept the others. At 11, her doorbell rang. She wasn't expecting anyone. Through the peephole, Corporal Ortiz, eyes red, uniform wrinkled like she'd slept in it. Kira opened the door. "Danielle, what happened?" "My commander relieved me of duty pending investigation." The words tumbled out. "He says I violated operational security by recording at a federal event, that I compromised chain of command by going directly to the IG, that my conduct was unbecoming." "Did he use those exact words?" "Yes, ma'am." "Did you have JAG present?" "He said it wasn't necessary, that it was just an administrative conversation." Kira's anger spiked. "Who's your commander?" "Lieutenant Colonel Voss, Marine Corps Logistics." "Related to anyone at Hale Defense?" Ortiz blinked. "I don't know." Kira pulled out her phone, made 3 calls in rapid succession. First to JAG, second to the IG, third to Senator Aldridge's office. By the time she finished, Ortiz was crying. "Ma'am, I'm so sorry. I thought I was doing the right thing." "You did do the right thing. They're retaliating because they can't attack me directly." Kira gripped Ortiz's shoulders. "Listen to me. You are not alone. You have documentation, you have witnesses, and you have me. This doesn't end with you taking the blame." "But my career..." "Your career is fine. His is about to get very complicated." Kira's phone rang. She answered. "Yes?" "Commander Vance, this is Colonel Hayes, USMC Inspector General's office. We've been made aware of Lieutenant Colonel Voss's actions regarding Corporal Ortiz. We're opening an investigation into potential retaliation." "How fast can you move?" "We're interviewing him in 2 hours. If the allegations are substantiated, he'll be suspended immediately." "Good." Kira looked at Ortiz. "Corporal, you're going to give your statement to Colonel Hayes. Full detail, everything that happened." Ortiz straightened despite the tears. "Yes, ma'am." After she left, Kira sat at her kitchen table and stared at the $3 bills she'd brought home from the gala. She'd planned to frame them. Now they felt heavier than evidence. They felt like a starting gun. Her phone rang again, this time a number she recognized, Captain Finnegan's attorney. "Commander Vance, this is Rebecca Thorne, representing Drew Finnegan. My client wishes to make a statement." "He can make it to the FBI." "He's willing to cooperate, provide names, documentation, testimony, in exchange for immunity." Kira's laugh was bitter. "Immunity from what? He hasn't been charged yet." "He will be when the server evidence comes out. But if he cooperates now, before it's public, the prosecution might be lenient." "Tell your client to talk to Agent Reeves. I'm not interested in bargains." "Commander, my client has information about systematic misconduct spanning multiple defense contractors, names you don't have, events you don't know about. If you want accountability, he's offering it." "At what cost?" "His freedom." Kira closed her eyes. The math was ugly. Finnegan walks in exchange for information that could expose dozens more. Justice traded for exposure. "I'll pass the message to Agent Reeves, but I'm not making promises." "Understood." The call ended. Immediately, another came through, this time a voice Kira hadn't heard in 5 years. "Kira? It's Sarah Mendez." Kira's breath caught. Sarah Mendez, former Navy JAG, discharged after filing a harassment complaint against a senior officer, the complaint that went nowhere, the officer who kept his job. "Sarah, how did you..." "I saw what happened at the gala. I saw what you did." Her voice trembled. "And I need to tell you something. The officer I reported? He's now a defense contractor, working with SOCOM, and he's still doing it. Kira grabbed a pen. Name: Captain Anthony Bryce, formerly JAG, now consulting with Titan Security Solutions. Do you have evidence? I have everything I kept from my case. Emails, texts, witness statements. Everything they said wasn't enough 5 years ago. Sarah's voice hardened. Is it enough now? It's enough. Kira was already typing an email to Reeves. Send everything to Agent Carla Reeves, FBI. I'm copying you on the address now. Kira, they destroyed me when I spoke up. They called me vindictive, unstable, career-obsessed. They made sure no one would hire me. I lost everything. That doesn't happen this time. How can you be sure? Because you're not alone anymore, and neither am I. After Sarah hung up, Kira sat with her head in her hands. The weight wasn't just the 3 men anymore. It was every man they'd protected, every system that had enabled them, every woman who'd been told to stay quiet because speaking up cost too much. Her phone buzzed. Text from Admiral Breck. Brace yourself. Hale's attorney just filed a defamation suit, claiming you slandered him publicly. Kira texted back. Let him. Discovery will bury him. Another text from a number she didn't recognize. You think you won? Wait until they dig into your past. See how perfect you really are. Kira stared at it. The threat was clear. They were coming for her now, looking for mistakes, contradictions, anything to discredit her. She deleted the text. Then she called her own attorney. Tom, it's Kira Vance. I need you to prepare for a defamation defense, and I need you to audit my entire career. Every evaluation, every complaint, every decision. If there's anything they can use, I want to know about it first. Kira, what's going on? War, and I'm making sure I survive it. By evening, the news had broken publicly, not through official channels, through social media. Someone leaked the gala footage. Within 3 hours, it had 17 million views. The comments section was a battlefield. Finally, someone held them accountable. She's overreacting. It was just money. Every woman who's ever been treated like this is watching. This is what happens when you give women power. Vindictive. Kira didn't read past the first 50. She didn't need to. She knew what was coming. The support, the backlash, the scrutiny, the endless dissection of whether she'd done the right thing, whether she'd overstepped, whether $3 was really worth destroying 3 lives. But what they didn't understand was that it was never about $3. It was about the precedent, the silence, the calculation every woman made when deciding whether speaking up was worth the cost. And Kira was done calculating. Her phone rang one more time. This time, an unknown number with a DC area code. Commander Vance? Ma'am, my name is Jessica Ruiz. I'm a legal assistant at Foster & Klein. I worked with Brett Cullen's firm 2 years ago. Her voice was barely a whisper. He has more than files on that server. He has live feeds, cameras in hotel rooms during contractor conferences. He's been recording women without consent for years. Kira's entire body went cold. How many cameras? I don't know, but I helped him expense the equipment. I thought it was for security. I didn't realize. Jessica started crying. I didn't realize what he was doing until I saw my own face on his monitor. Did you report it? I tried. HR said I was mistaken, that it was a misunderstanding. They offered me severance if I signed an NDA. Did you sign? Yes. But I kept copies of the expense reports, and I kept a recording of my meeting with HR. She exhaled shakily. I'll break the NDA. I don't care anymore. If it helps stop him, I'll testify. Kira closed her eyes, felt the full weight of what they'd uncovered. Send everything to Agent Reeves, tonight. And Jessica? Yes? Thank you for being brave. I'm not brave. I'm just tired of being scared. The call ended. Kira stood in her apartment, staring at the $3 bills still sitting on her counter, and understood with absolute clarity that this was no longer about vindication or justice or even accountability. This was about every woman who'd ever been recorded, dismissed, silenced, or paid off. And it was about making sure that when the reckoning came, no one could say they didn't know. Because now, everyone knew. And there was no going back. Thursday morning arrived with the weight of a verdict no one had written yet. Kira stood outside the Senate hearing room, watching staffers rush past with folders thick enough to break spines. Senator Aldridge emerged from an office, spotted her, and walked over. You ready for this? Kira adjusted her uniform, every ribbon in place, every crease sharp. As ready as I'll ever be. They're going to come at you hard. Hale's attorneys filed a motion to exclude your testimony on grounds of bias. It was denied, but expect questions about your motives. My motives were standing in front of me holding $3. Aldridge almost smiled. Keep that energy. You're going to need it. The hearing room filled quickly. Press in the back, contractors in expensive suits, military brass in the front rows. And in the gallery, nearly 40 women who'd submitted complaints in the last 6 days. Corporal Ortiz sat among them, spine straight, hands folded. Senator Aldridge called the session to order at 10 a.m. sharp. This hearing addresses systematic misconduct by defense contractors at federally funded events. We will hear testimony from victims, witnesses, and institutional representatives regarding patterns of harassment, retaliation, and criminal activity. She paused, let the words settle. Commander Kira Vance, please approach. Kira walked to the witness table. Cameras clicked, phones recorded. She raised her right hand, swore to tell the truth, and sat. Senator Aldridge leaned forward. Commander, in your own words, describe what happened at the gala on Saturday evening. Kira didn't look at notes, didn't need them. I was serving drinks when Marcus Hale, Brett Cullen, and Drew Finnegan began making comments about my age and employment status. Mr. Hale then threw 3 $1 bills onto my tray and stated that it represented my annual worth. When I attempted to leave, Mr. Finnegan blocked my path and made a sexual proposition. Mr. Cullen filmed the interaction for entertainment. What did you do? I identified myself and requested they step back. They refused, so I made it public. A senator from the opposing party leaned into his microphone. Senator Bradford, known for defending contractors. Commander, isn't it true that you could have simply reported this through proper channels rather than causing a public spectacle? I did report it through proper channels, Senator, to the MPS, to the IG, to federal investigators. The public spectacle came when 40 witnesses decided to corroborate what they saw. But you chose to humiliate these men from a position of authority. No, Senator. They humiliated themselves. I just stopped protecting them from the consequences. Bradford's jaw tightened. These are respected businessmen with decades of service to our military. These are predators with decades of access to our military, Kira cut in. There's a difference. Murmurs rippled through the room. Aldridge gavelled once. Commander Vance, what happened after you revealed your identity? Multiple women came forward with similar experiences. Corporal Danielle Ortiz provided video evidence of the incident and documentation of a group chat where the harassment was premeditated. Former employee Linda Chen provided 3 years of internal complaints that had been buried by Hale Defense Solutions. And former JAG officer Sarah Mendez identified another contractor engaged in the same behavior. How many total complaints have been filed? As of this morning, 143, spanning 4 years, involving 12 different contractors. The room went silent. Even Bradford looked shaken. Senator Aldridge pulled out a document. Agent Reeves, would you please summarize what federal investigators found on Mr. Cullen's server? Agent Reeves stood from the second row, walked to the microphone. We recovered over 400 video files, recordings from hotel rooms, conference areas, and private events. Most subjects were unaware they were being filmed. 17 videos contain explicit content. 23 show evidence of quid pro quo harassment. 6 involve potential criminal assault. Someone in the gallery gasped. A reporter dropped her pen. Bradford leaned back, face pale. Agent Reeves, are charges being filed? Mr. Cullen was arrested Wednesday evening on federal wiretapping charges, voyeurism, and conspiracy. Mr. Finnegan has agreed to cooperate in exchange for reduced sentencing. Mr. Hale is currently under investigation for obstruction and complicity. Kira watched Hale's attorney in the third row. The man looked like he'd been hit by a truck. Aldridge turned back to Kira. Commander, after the gala, did any of these men attempt to contact you? Mr. Hale called to apologize. During that conversation, he informed me of Mr. Cullen's server. That information led directly to the FBI's investigation. Why do you think he did that? Kira considered the question. Because he finally understood the magnitude of what he'd enabled. Or because he wanted to save himself. I'm not sure it matters. Do you believe his apology was genuine? I believe he was sorry. Whether he was sorry for what he did or sorry he got caught, that's for him to reconcile. Bradford jumped back in. Commander, you've destroyed 3 careers, damaged a major defense contractor, and caused significant disruption to ongoing military operations. Do you have any regrets? Kira looked directly at him. My only regret, Senator, is that it took 30 years and $3 for anyone to care. The gallery erupted in applause. Aldridge gavelled them quiet, but didn't hide her approval. Commander Vance, what do you believe should happen next? I believe every defense contractor with access to military personnel should undergo mandatory conduct reviews. I believe every complaint filed in the last decade should be reopened and investigated by independent parties. I believe victims should have direct access to IG hotlines without chain-of-command interference. And I believe anyone who retaliates against a complainant should be immediately barred from federal contracts. That's a significant overhaul. It's a necessary one. Senator Bradford tried one more time. Commander, do you think it's appropriate for someone in your position to use their authority to settle personal grievances? Kira's voice went cold. Senator, with respect, if you think this is personal, you haven't been listening. This is institutional. And if you're more concerned about protecting contractors than the people they harmed, then you're part of the problem. Bradford's face flushed red. He opened his mouth, closed it, said nothing. Aldridge glanced at the clock. We'll take a 15-minute recess. When we return, we'll hear from victims directly. Kira stepped down from the witness table. As she walked past the gallery, Corporal Ortiz stood. So did the woman next to her. Then another. Then another. Within seconds, all 40 women were standing. Not applauding. Not cheering. Just standing. Bearing witness to the fact that they were still here. Still fighting. Still refusing to disappear. During the recess, Kira found a quiet hallway. Her hands were shaking again. Not from nerves, from exhaustion. A voice behind her. Commander Vance? She turned. A man in his 60s, retired Navy by the bearing. He extended his hand. Captain Richard Moss. I served with your father in the Persian Gulf. Kira shook his hand. Small world. I wanted to tell you something. 20 years ago, my daughter filed a harassment complaint at her civilian job. Her boss made her life hell until she quit. She never worked in that field again. His voice cracked. I told her to let it go, that fighting wasn't worth it. And I've regretted that advice every day since. Sir, you were trying to protect her. No, I was trying to protect myself from the discomfort of watching her fight. He gripped her hand tighter. What you did up there, that was for every daughter whose father told her to stay quiet. Thank you. He walked away before Kira could respond. When the hearing resumed, the testimony came in waves. Women describing propositions, threats, retaliation. Men corroborating stories they'd witnessed but never reported. HR representatives admitting they'd buried complaints to protect corporate relationships. One woman, barely 30, described being cornered at a conference by Brett Cullen. He told me I'd never get another contract if I didn't have a drink with him. When I refused, my company lost 3 bids that month. My boss blamed me, said I'd damaged the relationship. Another woman, older, former contractor herself. I reported Drew Finnegan for inappropriate conduct in 2019. The investigator told me I was being oversensitive, that defense work required thick skin. I left the industry entirely. Each story added weight. Each voice made the pattern undeniable. By 4 p.m., Senator Bradford had stopped asking questions. He just sat there, listening, face growing grayer with each testimony. When the last witness finished, Aldridge addressed the room. This committee will draft comprehensive reform legislation within 30 days. All defense contractors will be subject to new conduct standards. All victims will have access to independent arbitration, and all complaints will be tracked in a centralized database accessible to federal investigators. She paused, looked directly at Kira. None of this would have happened if one woman hadn't decided that $3 was $3 too many. This committee thanks Commander Vance for her courage and her service. The gavel fell. The hearing ended. Kira stood, walked toward the exit. Senator Bradford intercepted her in the hallway. Commander, I owe you an apology. She stopped. For what? For not believing it was this bad. For assuming you were exaggerating. For defending a system I didn't understand was broken. He looked genuinely shaken. My chief of staff just told me 3 women on my own team have experienced harassment from contractors. And I never knew. I never asked. Senator, the question isn't whether you knew. It's what you do now that you do. He nodded slowly. I'll co-sponsor Aldridge's bill, and I'll make sure it passes. Thank you. Bradford walked away. Kira leaned against the wall, finally allowing herself to feel the exhaustion. Agent Reeves found her there. Commander, I need to update you. Cullen's attorney just offered full cooperation. Names, dates, recordings, financial records, everything. In exchange for what? 20 years instead of life. He'll still die in prison, but he won't die old. And Finnegan? 15 years. He's already given us 8 more names, contractors we didn't know about. His testimony starts Monday. What about Hale? Reeves hesitated. Hale's attorney is arguing he wasn't directly involved in the criminal activity, that he only enabled it through negligence, not intent. Kira's anger flared. That's bullshit. I know, but legally it might hold. He could walk with probation and a fine. That's not justice. No, but it's reality. Reeves softened. Commander, You exposed this. You got 143 women to come forward. You got federal charges filed. You got institutional reform. Hale's reputation is destroyed, regardless of whether he sees a cell. Sometimes that has to be enough. It's not enough. Maybe not, but it's more than they had 6 days ago. Reeves left. Kira stood alone in the empty hallway, wrestling with the gap between justice and resolution. Her phone buzzed. Text from Admiral Breck. The secretary wants to meet with you. Tomorrow. 800. Bring coffee. This is going to be a long conversation. Another text, from a number she didn't recognize. Ma'am, this is Lieutenant Amy Chen, Air Force. I watched your testimony. I've been carrying a complaint for 2 years that went nowhere. I'm filing again. Thank you for showing us it's possible. Then another. Commander Vance, I'm a contractor. I've witnessed this behavior. I never reported it because I thought I'd lose my security clearance. I'm reporting it now. Thank you. The messages kept coming. 10, 20, 50. Women finding their voices, men admitting their silence, systems beginning to crack. Kira walked outside. The late afternoon sun felt too bright after hours in artificial light. Corporal Ortiz waited by the steps. Ma'am, I got news. Lieutenant Colonel Voss was relieved of command pending investigation. They found evidence he was related to Marcus Hale's wife. Conflict of interest. Good. And my reinstatement came through. Effective immediately. Kira smiled. Even better. Ortiz hesitated. Ma'am, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you think it was worth it? Everything that's happened? The scrutiny, the threats, the backlash. Kira thought about the $3 still sitting on her kitchen counter, about the 40 women standing in the gallery, about the messages flooding her phone from people who'd been silent for years. Danielle, 6 days ago you and I were strangers. Now we're part of something bigger than either of us, something that's going to outlast the men who tried to silence us. She met Ortiz's eyes. So yes, it was worth it. Every single consequence. Ortiz nodded, tears streaming. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for recording, for speaking up, for refusing to let them make you small. They stood together on the Capitol steps, two women who'd decided that survival wasn't enough anymore, and watched the sun set over a city that was finally starting to listen. Kira's phone rang one last time. Private number. Commander Vance? It's Marcus Hale. Long pause. I'm calling to tell you I'm pleading guilty. Kira's breath caught. To what charges? All of them. Obstruction, conspiracy, accessory to voyeurism. My attorney says I'm insane, that we could fight this. But I can't look at my daughter and tell her I fought to avoid accountability. His voice broke. I enabled monsters. I knew what they were doing, and I looked away because it was easier than confronting it. That makes me complicit. And I'm done pretending otherwise. What's your sentence? 10 years, minimum. I'll be 70 when I get out. If I get out. Kira didn't know what to say. Hale continued. I know this doesn't fix anything, doesn't undo the harm, doesn't give those women back what we took. But maybe it sets a precedent. Maybe the next man thinks twice before he throws money at a woman and calls it a joke. Maybe. I'm sorry, Commander, for all of it. And I know sorry isn't enough, but it's all I have left. The line went dead. Kira stood there holding her phone, trying to process what accountability actually looked like when it finally arrived. It wasn't clean. It wasn't satisfying. It didn't erase the damage or restore what had been lost. But it was real, and it was happening. And that was something. She walked to her car, drove home through evening traffic, and finally allowed herself to cry. Not from sadness, from release, from the sheer weight of carrying this alone and discovering she never had to. When she got home, she took the $3 bills off her counter and placed them in a small frame. No plaque, no explanation, just the bills themselves, wrinkled and faded and still somehow worth more than any amount of money could ever measure. Because they'd bought something, after all, not silence, not shame, not permission. They'd bought a reckoning. And the bill was still coming due. 6 months later, Kira sat across from the Secretary of Defense in an office that smelled like leather and old decisions. He slid a folder across the desk. Contractor Conduct Reform Act, passed unanimously. Takes effect Monday. Kira opened it. 43 pages of regulations that wouldn't have existed if 3 men had simply treated her like a person. What's the enforcement mechanism? Independent review boards, direct IG access, mandatory reporting. Any contractor with substantiated complaints gets blacklisted from federal work. He leaned back. You did this, Commander. A lot of people did this. You started it. He paused. Which is why I need to tell you something. Your promotion to captain was approved, but the nomination for Rear Admiral was blocked. Kira's stomach dropped. By who? 3 senators. They didn't give reasons. They didn't have to. His voice softened. You made enemies, Kira. Powerful ones. And they're making sure you pay for it. She nodded slowly, feeling the weight of what courage actually cost. So I hit the ceiling. You hit their ceiling, not yours. He stood. For what it's worth, I fought for you. So did Aldridge. So did every woman in the Joint Chiefs. But politics is politics. And accountability has a price. Always has. He walked her to the door. The Navy's lucky to have you, Commander, even if some people are too stupid to see it. Kira left his office and sat in her car for 20 minutes, staring at nothing. She'd known there would be consequences. She just hadn't expected them to feel this personal. Her phone rang. Corporal Ortiz. Ma'am, I got promoted. Sergeant, effective immediately. Kira forced brightness into her voice. That's outstanding, Danielle. And they're sending me to the IG's office as a liaison for harassment complaints. Because of what we did. Because of what you did. You were brave before I was. Ma'am, are you okay? You sound... I'm fine. Just tired. Kira exhaled. Congratulations, Sergeant. You earned this. After she hung up, Kira allowed herself 5 minutes of anger. 5 minutes to hate the system that punished her for exposing its failures. 5 minutes to wonder if staying quiet would have been easier. Then she started the car and drove to work. Because easier had never been the point. 3 weeks later, Marcus Hale stood before a federal judge for sentencing. The courtroom was packed. Victims in the gallery, press in the back. Kira sat in the 3rd row, watching a man who'd once thought $3 bought him power learn what powerlessness felt like. The judge read the charges: conspiracy, obstruction, accessory to multiple felonies. Hale stood with his attorney, shoulders slumped, looking 20 years older than he had at the gala. Mr. Hale, do you have anything to say before sentencing? Hale turned toward the gallery. His eyes found his daughter, who sat alone in the back row. She didn't look away, but she didn't acknowledge him either. Your Honor, I spent 40 years building a career on the belief that success justified everything. That results mattered more than methods. that powerful men earned the right to behave however they wanted. His voice cracked. I was wrong. And I destroyed lives because I was too arrogant to see it. He turned to face Kira. Commander Vance, I'm sorry. Not because saying it helps me, but because you deserved to hear it 6 months ago. You deserved to never need to hear it at all. The judge's gavel fell. Marcus Hale, you are hereby sentenced to 12 years in federal prison, followed by 5 years supervised release. You are permanently barred from federal contracting and required to pay restitution to all identified victims. Marshals led him away. His daughter stood and walked out without looking back. Kira watched her go and thought about the cost of accountability. Hale would serve his time. His daughter would rebuild her life without him. And somewhere, a system that had protected him for decades would keep turning, slightly adjusted, slightly better. It wasn't justice, but it was progress. That afternoon, Kira received an email from Agent Reeves. Subject, Cullen update. She opened it. Brett Cullen was attacked in prison yesterday, non-life-threatening injuries. Word got out what he did. Inmates don't like predators. He's in protective custody now. Thought you should know. Kira closed her laptop. She didn't feel satisfaction. She felt exhausted by the whole machinery of consequences, the grinding wheels that hurt everyone they touched, guilty and innocent alike. Her phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Ma'am, this is Lieutenant Amy Chen. Remember me? I testified at the hearing. I just got promoted to lead the new Contractor Oversight Division. I'm using everything you taught us. Thank you. Then another. Commander Vance, I'm a drill instructor at Paris Island. I tell your story to every female recruit. They need to know someone fought. Someone won. And another. My daughter is joining the Navy next year because of you. She says if you can stand up, she can serve. Kira read them all. Every message a reminder that the cost she'd paid hadn't just bought her own dignity. It had bought space for everyone who came after. 4 months later, the Women in Military Service Museum held a dedication ceremony. Kira stood in the back, uncomfortable with attention she hadn't asked for. Senator Aldridge was at the podium, speaking to a crowd of 200. Today, we dedicate an exhibit to remind future generations what courage looks like. Not in combat, not in strategy, but in the simple, terrifying act of saying no. She gestured to a display case behind her. Inside, mounted on black velvet, 3 $1 bills, wrinkled, faded, labeled with a brass plaque. $3, the price they offered, the cost they paid. Commander Kira Vance, 2025. Not for sale, not for silence, not ever again. Aldridge continued, these bills represent every woman who is told her worth could be measured in money. Every woman who is told to smile through humiliation. Every woman who is told that speaking up would cost more than staying quiet. She looked directly at Kira. Commander Vance proved them wrong. She proved that silence costs more, that dignity has no price, and that sometimes the smallest insult carries the weight that finally breaks the system. Applause erupted. Cameras flashed. Kira stood frozen, staring at $3 that had somehow become a monument. After the ceremony, a young woman approached, 19, maybe 20, marine dress uniform, too new to have stories yet. Ma'am, can I tell you something? Kira turned. Of course. I almost didn't enlist. My recruiter made comments about my body, about what I'd have to do to get through boot camp. I was going to quit before I even started. Tears filled her eyes. Then I saw your testimony, and I realized quitting meant he won. So I reported him instead. He's gone now, and I'm here." Kira's throat tightened. "What's your name?" "Private Emma Vasquez." "Private Vasquez, you didn't need me to be brave. You just needed to see that bravery was possible." "No, ma'am. I needed to see that it was worth it." Emma straightened. "So thank you for showing us the cost and paying it anyway." She saluted and walked away, leaving Kira standing there with the weight of a legacy she'd never intended to build. That evening, Kira sat in her apartment with a glass of wine she wasn't drinking, staring at the replica of the $3 the museum had given her. Her phone rang. Admiral Breck. "Kira, I have news. The Rear Admiral nomination came through. They bypassed the blockage. You're getting promoted." She nearly dropped the phone. "How?" "Secretary of Defense made it his personal priority, called in favors, applied pressure. You're getting stars, Commander. You earned them." Kira closed her eyes, feeling vindication mixed with something darker. "Because of what I did, or because they felt guilty?" "Does it matter?" "It shouldn't, but it does." Breck was quiet for a moment. "Kira, you're not getting promoted because they feel guilty. You're getting promoted because you're the best officer I've ever served with, and because the Navy needs people who won't compromise when it matters." He paused. "Take the win. You've earned it." After he hung up, Kira sat in silence, trying to reconcile the woman who'd served drinks 6 months ago with the woman who'd just been told she'd wear stars. The gap between them felt impossibly wide and terrifyingly narrow all at once. 2 months later, the same hotel hosted another gala. Same ballroom, same chandeliers. Different world. Kira arrived in full dress uniform, Rear Admiral stars gleaming on her shoulders. She wasn't serving drinks this time. She was the keynote speaker. The crowd stood when she entered. She scanned faces, recognizing some, forgetting others. At table 7, the same table where Hale had thrown $3 8 months ago, sat Sergeant Ortiz, Lieutenant Chen, and 3 other women who'd testified at the hearings. They'd claimed that table deliberately. Reclaimed it. Kira took the stage. No notes, no script. Just 8 months of fury and hope compressed into words. 8 months ago, I stood in this room and was offered $3. Tonight, I stand here as proof that some prices can't be paid, and some women can't be bought. She paused, letting the words settle. But this isn't about me. It's about the 143 women who came forward. The 17 men who admitted they'd witnessed harassment and stayed silent. The senators who passed legislation that will protect the next generation, and the countless people who decided that complicity wasn't neutral. It was choosing the wrong side. Her eyes found table 7. $3 didn't break me, but they broke a system that had been fracturing for decades. And now, we're building something better. Not perfect, not finished, but better. She held up a photograph of the museum display. These $3 sit in a museum now. A reminder that the smallest acts of disrespect can become monuments to change. That courage doesn't require combat. That sometimes the most radical thing you can do is refuse to accept less than you deserve. The applause was deafening, but Kira wasn't finished. To every woman watching this who's been told to stay quiet, to take the joke, to not make waves, I need you to understand something. Staying quiet doesn't protect you. It protects them. And the moment you realize that, everything changes. She stepped away from the podium, The ovation lasted 3 minutes. After the event, Kira stood in the same parking lot where she'd walked 8 months ago. Same rain, same cold. But when she reached her car this time, no one followed. No one blocked her path. No one threw money at her feet. She unlocked her door and paused, remembering the woman she'd been that night. Invisible, underestimated, dismissed. A voice behind her. "Admiral Vance?" She turned. A woman in her 60s, hotel staff uniform, holding a tray. "I was working that night. I saw what they did. I wanted to help, but I was scared I'd lose my job." The woman's voice shook. "I've been scared my whole life."
"But watching you, I reported my manager last month for the same thing. He's gone now." Kira's eyes stung.
"What's your name?"
"Gloria. Gloria Chen."
"Any relation to Linda Chen?"
Gloria smiled through tears.
"My sister. She told me if you could do it, so could I." "Gloria, you didn't need me. You needed permission to be angry, and that permission was always yours." Gloria nodded, wiped her eyes, and walked back inside. Kira drove home through rain that felt cleaner than it had 8 months ago. She thought about the $3, about the women who'd found their voices, about the system that had bent just enough to let light through the cracks. It wasn't the ending she'd imagined when those bills hit her tray. It was messier, costlier, more complicated than any story about justice ever acknowledged. But it was real, and it was hers, and it belonged to every woman who decided the dignity wasn't negotiable. When she got home, Kira found one last email waiting.
From Marcus Hale's daughter.
"Admiral Vance, I'm Julia Hale. I'm studying law now, specializing in workplace harassment. I'm using my father's case in my thesis, not to defend him, to make sure what he did gets taught as a warning. I wanted you to know that his destruction created something. Me. Someone who will spend her career preventing men like him. Thank you for not letting him get away with it. Julia." Kira read it twice, then closed her laptop. She walked to her window, looked out at a city that kept turning, kept forgetting, kept remembering. She thought about $3 and what they'd bought. Not her silence, not her shame, not her permission. They'd bought a reckoning that was still unfolding, a precedent that couldn't be undone, a line drawn so clearly that crossing it now meant consequences no amount of money or power could erase. The $3 had been meant to diminish her. Instead, they detonated a system that had protected the wrong people for far too long. And in the end, that was worth more than any rank, any promotion, any recognition could ever measure. Because some things aren't about winning. They're about making sure the next woman doesn't have to fight the same battle. They're about turning insults into monuments and silence into thunder. Kira touched the replica bills on her desk one last time. $3. The cheapest revolution ever bought. The most expensive lesson ever learned. And the price was still being paid. By every person who'd ever thought money could buy permission, power could erase consequences, or silence could outlast rage. They were wrong, and the world was finally starting to prove it.